clock on the wall of the habitat doesn't track seconds, it tracks cycles. You are inside the Mars Dune Alpha habitat, 1,700 square feet of pressurized, three-dimensional printed safety. Outside the thick, reinforced hull, the wind doesn't blow. There is only the low-frequency hum of the air filtration system. It is a constant, mechanical vibration that works its way into your teeth. You have been here for 140 days. The air smells metallic, recycled, and stagnant. It is the smell of a machine that refuses to stop running. You walk past the medical bay, the kitchen, and the small hydroponic rack where your microgreens struggle against artificial light. Every surface is smooth, white, and deliberate. You aren't just living here, you are being processed. You look at the communication console. It is the most dangerous object in the room. A message to Earth takes 22 minutes to reach Houston. The response takes another 22. That is a 44-minute round trip lag. In the time it takes for you to ask a simple question, your world back home has changed in ways you can no longer influence. You are talking to ghosts. You are speaking to a civilization that exists in the past relative to your present. This is the first rule of the void. Proximity to humanity is measured in light minutes, and you are currently drifting beyond the reach of a meaningful hand. You don't call anymore, not unless it is essential. The latency makes the silence feel heavier. You realize that if you screamed, the sound would dissipate against the walls before a signal could even begin its journey. You are effectively alone. The survival of your mind depends on the schedule. You wake up at 6 o'clock. You consume exactly 1,800 calories. You perform 30 minutes of maintenance on the atmospheric scrubbers. You spend 90 minutes in the sandbox, a 1,200 square foot dome filled with red dust that mimics the surface of Mars. You walk the perimeter until the red grit coats your boots. Every movement is a chore. Every chore is a firewall against cognitive decline. If you stop the routine, the space fog sets in. It starts as a sluggishness in your thought process, a inability to recall a word, a sudden, terrifying moment where you forget why you were holding a wrench. You have seen your crewmates struggle with it. The third quarter of this mission is approaching, and the irritability is turning into something jagged. You watch your colleague, Dr. Eris, during the evening meal. He chews his rehydrated protein with a rhythm that has become infuriating. He doesn't notice the moisture in his breath or the way he taps his finger against the table. You want to tell him to stop, to demand he change his posture, but you know that conflict is a luxury you cannot afford. In an environment this small, social friction is a kinetic weapon. One outburst can trigger a chain reaction of animosity. You remember the Skylab 4 mission, where the crew simply stopped talking to mission control for an entire day. It wasn't madness. It was a silent strike against the crushing weight of expectation. You understand them now. You realize that the mission control team doesn't actually exist to help you. They exist to monitor the data of your decay. You reach for your personal tablet. It contains photos of a rainy afternoon in Seattle, a city you haven't seen in nearly half a year. The water hitting the pavement, the smell of damp pine, the chaotic movement of a crowd. They feel like memories from a different life. Earth has become an abstraction. It is a tiny, unreachable dot in the darkness of the sky. You know logically that billions of people are down there, living, dying, and arguing, but it feels like a simulation. You are the only person who knows what it means to be truly, physically, and legally detached from the planet. You aren't just an astronaut. You are a test case for human endurance. They are watching to see if your personality will collapse or if your discipline will hold you together. There is a terror in the quiet. When the lights dim in the habitat, the silence becomes physical. It presses against your eardrums. You find yourself listening for the sound of wind, the rustle of leaves, or the distant murmur of a neighbor. Sounds that haven't existed for months. Your brain is starving for sensory input, and in its hunger, it begins to hallucinate. Sometimes you swear you smell rain. Other times you hear a voice calling your name from the airlock. You know it isn't real. You are a scientist. You know the mechanics of phantom sensory phenomena. But the knowledge doesn't stop the heart from hammering against your ribs. You tighten your grip on your blanket. You are thousands of miles from the nearest human who isn't currently suffering from the same deprivation. You look at your watch. It is time for the daily status report. You sit at the console, your fingers hovering over the keys. You could tell them the truth. You could tell them that you are losing your tether to reality. You could describe the way the color red has started to hurt your eyes, but you don't. You report the oxygen levels, the power consumption, and the crop yield. You provide the metrics they need to keep the simulation running. The truth is too messy for a transmission. The truth would require a level of intimacy that no longer exists between you and the world you left behind. You press send. You watch the numbers crawl across the screen, knowing they won't reach a human ear for 22 minutes. 220 days have passed. You are in the home stretch now. The finish line is visible, yet it feels further away than ever. You have learned the hidden architecture of your own mind. You have learned that willpower is not a constant. It is a resource that must be rationed. You have learned that the greatest threat to a mission isn't mechanical failure or a breach in the hull. It is the boredom that slowly erodes your sense of self. You are becoming a person of habit and shadow, a vessel for tasks and data. You wonder if, when you finally return to the green, chaotic reality of Earth, you will ever be able to stand the noise again. You walk to the viewport. The desert landscape looks the same as it did on day 1 and the same as it will on day 300. There is no horizon, only the edge of your limited perception. You think about the explorers of the past, the sailors who crossed the oceans without a radio, the pioneers who crossed the plains without a map. They had each other. They had the wind. They had the horizon. You have a white wall and a computer screen, yet you continue. You exercise. You report the data. You eat the rations. You tend the crops. You do these things not because you want to, but because it is the only thing standing between you and the void. The silence is your partner now. You no longer fight the isolation, you occupy it. You understand the geometry of the mission, the way every small action cascades into a larger survival probability. You have become a component in a machine that spans the gap between worlds. You look at the dark, vast expanse above the dome. Somewhere out there, the real world turns. It is a blue, spinning, noisy, vibrant place that you are no longer part of. You accept this. You are a bridge between what we know and what we are capable of becoming when the world is stripped away. The next transmission will arrive in 44 minutes. You don't wait for it. You turn away from the console and begin your evening maintenance. There is a valve in the water system that needs tightening. There is a leaf on your plant that needs pruning. There is a day to be finished. You are the architect of your own sanity, and you are far from finished. If you want to understand the limits of what a human can endure, you keep watching. You keep track of the cycles. You keep the machine running. You stay the course 1 second at a time.